4CRB now presents Legal Matters, proudly brought to you by Bell and Senior Lawyers. Call them today for all your legal needs on 07 55 32 8777. This program provides general legal information only. It's not personal legal advice. Everyone's situation is different, so please seek independent advice for your own circumstances.
Well, it's a very good morning to Andrew Bell from Bell and Senior Lawyers. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Colin. Thanks for having me back yet again, talking more about technology law.
We are indeed. Well, this is your show. It is Legal Matters. This is your opportunity this morning to get some free legal advice live on air. We'd love to hear from you this morning. Do not leave it to the end of the program. 0755 208888 is the number. 55208888, and we'd love to hear from you this morning. Last couple of weeks we've been talking AI law, and we've had some great feedback from people on the topic. I've enjoyed the conversation because it's what I studied way back when, and this is a very interesting topic as to where the law sits in all of this, or where it's potentially going to sit if it hasn't made up its mind yet. Maybe we'll start with that recap, Andrew, as to what we discussed in the last couple of weeks.
Sounds good. Yeah, I agree. AI is now being woven into every part of everything that we do. So while it wasn't a big consideration a few years ago, it really is becoming important that we understand what we can and can't do. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about the internet law and why Google and Facebook, etc., can host what they can host and seemingly get away with it. These were the safe harbor provisions that came from America through the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or DMCA, and then got incorporated into Australian law via the US Free Trade Agreement. And then last week we started talking about what AI actually is. And my central point was that large language models aren't thinking machines. They're really sophisticated autocompletes. So they look at the statistically most likely word that comes next, and they're programmed to always produce an answer, even when they genuinely don't have one behind the scenes, which can create all sorts of chaos.
Absolutely. Well, this is your program. 0755 208888 is the number. We are talking AI law this morning, but that doesn't preclude any legal question you may like to pose this morning. 0755 208888. Andrew, prior to us going on air, we talked about a case decided in New York in February this year that you said every single person who has ever typed a legal question into ChatGPT needs to hear.
Exactly. So, Colin, in Australia and in America, if you go and see a lawyer and tell them that you might have a problem, that conversation's protected. We call it legal professional privilege. So your lawyer can't be forced to reveal what you've told them. And it's one of the oldest and most fundamental protections in our legal system. And it exists because people need to be completely open and honest with their lawyers. However, what happens if you're treating something else like your lawyer, but they're actually an AI robot?
Okay, this is an interesting one.
So in February this year, a federal judge in New York City handed down a decision in a case called the United States against Heppner. And in this case, the defendant had used a similar program to ChatGPT called Claude to research and work through his own legal position. He later picked up those documents and shared them with his defense lawyers. Prosecutors then tried to get a subpoena, which means that the Claude was forced to hand over the information that they had about him, and that was granted by the judge. The defence argued that they were protected documents because they were relating to his legal defence and that he'd shared them with counsel, and the judge rejected it. He said the documents went straight, there's no basis for any claim of attorney-client privilege, and the documents went straight to the prosecutors. So the defendant's own AI research was used against him in court.
Okay, so let's be really clear about this. The moment you type a legal problem or a legal question into ChatGPT instead of ringing a solicitor or a lawyer, your protection is gone.
Well, that's definitely the case in America. So, yeah, this does exist with other online platforms already. If you Google things, I believe the Baden Clay example, and there's been a number of other high-profile murders and things where people have Googled things and it's been used against them. However, people treat their AI like it's a person, and they talk to them and trust them, and they tell them things that they probably wouldn't tell anyone else. And now it turns out they definitely shouldn't be telling anyone else.
Yeah, okay, that's something that we hadn't considered, because I notice every day we ask ChatGPT or any of the AI bots out there more and more extensive questions surrounding business, surrounding personal efforts. It does a lot for you, but you've got to be careful about what it is that you're discussing, even if it is a legal problem, because it may end up being something that's held against you.
It may. I'd treat it like a postcard. Don't put anything into it that you don't want anyone else to be able to read on the other side.
All right, this is your program, 0755208888. If you'd like to pose a question to Andrew Bell from Bell and Senior Lawyers this morning, and do not leave it to the end of the program. We'd love to hear from you. All right, moving right along, we're talking AI law, and oh dear, Andrew, when I start to think about what you put forward there, there's lots of things that you could be asking. You could be asking about a contract. I'm thinking of selling something. I'm thinking of willing something. All of these protections, or all of these, and again, we also have that issue that we talked about last week. Is it giving you the correct advice?
Well, it's very difficult to tell if it's giving you the correct advice, Colin, because it's programmed to give you because it doesn't know anything and it doesn't independently check things, although some services are starting to do that. It's just giving you what it thinks the most likely answer is going to be. It comes up all the time, particularly in more narrow fields. It may give you an answer for Australian law, for example, and says it's Australian law, but it's actually American law.
Yes.
And our laws differ substantially in some areas, and they're very similar in some areas. What you put into it and what you get out the other end, you need to have the skills to be able to validate that it's correct and look at it with a very keen eye. And even though you normally trust it and it might be 95% right, that 5% could be really detrimental to you.
So you need to check it for reasonableness is probably what you're saying. Maybe the practical message in all of this is?
Use AI, but make sure that you've then gone and done your homework afterwards. Maybe it's a good starting point. But again, don't share with it things that you wouldn't be happy if someone else was to put it up and display it in front of your boss, your wife, your colleagues, etc.
All right, for the last couple of weeks we have been discussing this topic, but we would love to hear from you this morning. 0755208888 is the number. Pose any legal question you like and have it answered live on air. So for the last couple of weeks we have been talking AI, and it invents legal cases that do not exist. Has this actually happened?
So yes, it's happened overseas and it's happened in Australia. So what we were saying last week, Colin, you used the example of searching for an ABN on ChatGPT, and it told you very confidently the business's ABN, but when you went to look for it, the ABN didn't exist. And the same thing happens with Australian cases. So there's been a number of times where lawyers have got themselves in serious trouble, and my understanding is that self-represented people are facing this even more than lawyers. Is, again, you ask it, what's the leading case on this? How do I do X, Y, and Z? And it will come up with a list. There's a case in the ACT where there was an affidavit written in support of a sentencing proceeding. So if someone's in trouble, their friends and family can write an affidavit supporting why they're a good person or the issues that would be caused. And that was completely AI generated, and then someone signed it. And because there was inaccuracies in what was there, that the judge found out, there were severe consequences for the lawyer and the person who wrote the affidavit and the person who was being sentenced.
Wow.
There's also cases in the family court where people have put up cases and then been asked by the judge saying, we can't find these cases, can you confirm? And turned around and they couldn't actually provide any of the cases because AI had made them all up.
Okay, that is a trap for young players. We have heard a lot of these stories. And and some of them are quite strange indeed, but I think it comes down to the bottom line, Andrew. One of the early ones, as AI was coming out, someone said, write me a contract to sell a product from one to the other and protect my business and so forth. And then after the AI had generated, he took it to a solicitor and said, check this for me, tell me what you think. The solicitor came back and said, yeah, great, probably couldn't have written it any better than what this one has. There's probably a couple of clauses I could add. But when it goes wrong, who are you going to turn to? You can't ring AI or talk to AI and have him solve that problem. And then where do you stand when you turn up at a solicitor's door and say, hey, I wrote my own contract and now I'm in trouble?
Well, unfortunately, you have nothing to fall back on. They also, if you read the terms and conditions that most people don't, they all turn around and say that they have no warranty for any of this stuff that they produce.
Wow.
It is being tested at the moment because people are suing AI companies, particularly in the States related to mass shootings or other things that it's encouraged them to do. But there is no comeback. You use AI and you get what you get. It's similar that if you go to some random website and copy information off it and then rely upon it, if you've got no contractual relationship with those people, you probably have very few grounds to do anything about it.
And that's probably coming back to one of those golden rules. It's all good until it's not. And you need to have backup when those things happen. We might go to a word from our sponsor, but before we do, we'd love to hear from you. 15 minutes left in the program. This is your opportunity to get some free legal advice live on air. Doesn't have to be to do with what we're talking about today. It can be any topic you like. 0755 20 8888.
Wills, probate, powers of attorney or property matters are legal issues that can feel overwhelming. Don't put off dealing with them. Call our trusted sponsors, Bell and Senior Lawyers. They explain everything in plain English and guide you through every step of the way. For caring, experienced advice, phone 07 55 32 8777 or head to bellsenior.com.au today. Bell and Senior Lawyers, making legal matters simple.
All right, we might move on to AI and copyright now, and this is a very broad discussion. I know that is being followed very closely by not only a number of my friends, but a lot of the volunteers have been talking about it around the table. All right, a number of Gold Coast business owners will be interested in this one. Who owns the generated copyright and images? Before we get into AI specifically, can we explain what copyright actually is for listeners who are not familiar with it, and then we'll dive into the minutiae, let's call it.
Sounds good. Well, yeah, copyright is very important, and AI is a great tool to generate ideas, and I'm not saying don't use AI, I'm just saying we need to be careful what we do use it for. But copyright's a form of intellectual property, and it gets generated automatically the moment you create something original. In Australia, we don't need to register copyright, so you might be familiar with the C in a circle you'll see on stuff. In other countries, you do need to register it. You don't need to pay for it, and it just exists for about 70 years. Literary works, artistic works, music, pictures, so all the sorts of things you might want to put on a website, Colin.
Yes.
And so that's original information, and that needs to be something you've created, and you can assign those rights, and you can also protect other people from using them. So copyright's a very valuable tool for businesses to make sure that what they put out there into the world, that they've got some control over. Now, where AI comes into the picture might shock people, but a document that's generated entirely by Claude or ChatGPT from a single prompt under Australian law is not protected by copyright. So anyone can copy it freely if they can. You would then have to prove that you generated it and not the AI. So your competitor might be able to lift your AI-generated web copy. If you've got a jingle, they may be able to copy it. If they've got photos on the website, they may be able to copy them, transform them, change them, and use them themselves if it's all AI generated.
Okay, mate. And having dealt with this in the past with friends who have been in bands, and let's use that as an example, they might write a song, they pop it in a letter, they have it sent to themselves, registered post, and they pop it in a safe and never open it. And that was the rudimentary copyright for them. If someone ever pinched their lyrics, they could say, hey, no, I wrote this way back when, here's a stamped letter and I've sent them to myself. You've got to prove that you didn't use AI to generate that now.
Well, if that would be a defence that someone could raise, and then the onus would be pushed back on you to prove that you did come up with it.
Yes.
So, which is always very difficult at the best of times, right? And before AI, the presumption probably would have been if there was some written stuff that a person did it. But
yes.
Did you engage in a contract with a copywriter? When in your diary did you do this? Did you share your drafts with anyone? Was there any processes? And this is a similar problem people are getting in universities where they're getting asked to prove if the work they handed in they created. It's very difficult to prove a negative. Well, I did the work. Here's my document. Well, that's not good enough. How do we know that it wasn't generated by AI? And AI can generate the most amazing things now. It can. I've seen movies generated, film scores, all sorts of bits and pieces that have been generated by prompts. So, but as I said, at the moment, the AI copyright can't be created by AI under the law as it currently stands.
All right, 10 minutes left in the program. It is time to hear from you. We'd love you to make a call this morning. 0755 208888 is the number. If you call right now, you'll get straight through and ask any question you like. It doesn't have to be the topic of the day to Andrew, and you'll have it answered live on air. 10 minutes left in the program. All right, moving on. You gave me a great example off air, and it was about an elephant at Taronga Zoo. Can we revisit that one for the listeners?
Yes, there's a number of cases that have gone through quite some substantial courts that relate to copyright pre-AI, where it was determined that machines and animals can't own copyright. So there is a famous case relating to elephants that were creating art. Give them the paintbrush, let them choose the colours, people pay for that art, and then other people were reproducing it, and they got sued saying we own the copyright to this. Well, it was determined that it wasn't an original piece of art because it wasn't created by a human, and therefore there was no copyright. There's been similar cases about monkeys taking photos with a camera, and again, the monkey can't have the copyright, but if I press the button, the copyright would vest in me. So yeah, you've got to be really careful depending on what you're doing if you're going to rely on that for anything major.
All right, we might move on to another component of AI. But first, again, 8 minutes left in the program. 0755 208888. Do not leave it any longer. Ring now to ask your question or legal question of Andrew this morning. When AI makes decisions about you, now I know we had a caller a couple of weeks ago that posed something similar to this. Their bank used an algorithm to refuse their home loan with no explanation. What can they do, and is the law changing in this area?
So the law in this area is going to change fast, but we don't exactly know how it's going to change. But AI is able to make decisions and is being used to make decisions already. The most recent budget handed down in May has taken that very seriously. The government committed millions of dollars to grants to make sure that Services Australia, who do Centrelink and Medicare, Department of Veterans Affairs and a number of other departments, to start automating decisions made around people using AI so they can reduce the human workforce. Now, I find this very concerning. Last week we talked a little bit about how these large language models and AI don't create what's called deterministic results. You can put the same input in and get different output out the other side. So the problem is if they're making a decision whether you're eligible for NDIS, whether you're eligible for a pension, whether they want to cancel or give you something that you've applied for and then they reject it, on what grounds are they doing so? Now, AI models take in lots of large amounts of information and produce an answer out the other side, but how do we actually know why they made that decision. At the moment, all you can really do, if we go back to the weeks we discussed about administrative law, is ask for the reasons for the decision. And if they didn't take everything into account that they should have taken into account, you might be able to get it reversed. But that's going to be quite a difficult, long process, and these decisions are going to be automated all the time.
One of my favourite things to do with these types of situations, whether it's call centres overseas or whether it is automating processes or utilising software to make deterministic solutions, is that while it may be faster and it may be easier for the company that is selling you the product or service, it really isn't great for us. We end up spending a lot more time involved in either getting that product or service or being completely frustrated by it, and hence some of the Centrelink call numbers where you're forever being told your call is important to us, please wait, but meant to be more streamlined and efficient, and it isn't.
Absolutely. And overseas, some people at least have the right for a human to review an automated decision. We don't have that here. It's something that's been recommended, and I think we're going to find some things go horribly wrong before that then comes in here as well. But as someone who's built systems to make large amounts of decisions around approving credit, turning off people's mobile phones and all sorts of other bits and pieces, there's only so much information that you can take on board, and how these decisions work is very difficult to actually describe to someone. But if you see the person next to you get approved and you get knocked back, why is it? Now, I also think that discrimination and other things are going to come into it as well. A lot of these large language models have been trained on English language systems, trained on historical data. So it may have rejected you because of your surname or because of your age or other perceived biases that are built into the model that no one even is aware that they exist. So this is a rapidly developing area of law, and not one where there's a lot of actual guidance that the law gives us.
We've got our first caller. It is a very good morning to James. Ask your question of Andrew, James.
Good morning, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, James. How are you?
Yeah, great. Now, I just want to know, I had some people come in off the road selling batteries.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we spoke to them, and we probably didn't do our homework properly, but anyway, we organised to buy a battery from them. Now, we never signed nothing. We've tried to get in touch with them since.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's happened is they don't answer their phone. Anyway, we managed to get in touch with them just recently, and they said that they sent us an email. Now, we didn't receive the email, although we thought we didn't, but then it was in the junk mail, so we got the email. But we paid them $500 for the battery, for a 10-watt battery. Now they want to give us a 9.3 battery instead of a 10-watt.
Mm-hmm.
And we're really not happy with that. We ordered, now we never signed nothing to these blokes, so we ordered a 10-watt battery, and that's what we want. So how do we stand legally?
Well, you keep saying you didn't sign anything, but you did agree verbally, and you have paid them some money. So normally it would be considered that you have actually entered into a contract. You've gone beyond the negotiation stage. If it was sufficiently certain around what you're ordering and they can't provide that, then you'd typically say that they've frustrated the contract and you should be able to get any deposit you paid back. You either get what you agreed that they were going to give you, or you negotiate a change to the contract. But if you don't want to negotiate the change to the contract, you can give them the ultimatum. You either need to do what you said you're going to do, or you need to return my deposit.
Yeah, well, these people also want the money up front before they do the job.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been caught before by people where we've paid the money and we've just never got the job done.
Well, I mean, anything can be negotiated in a contract. You can do it either way around. It doesn't necessarily mean they're a scammer. But I did also recently put in batteries and only paid after it was complete to make sure that it was done to a high enough standard and it was signed off and the solar rebates came through. But again, this is to do with what you've agreed. So If you want to if you've already paid a deposit, I'd be questioning why you need to pay the rest of it up front.
James, did you get any paperwork at all describing what they were promising?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did get some paperwork what they were promising, and they just keep sending us an email now. We need this money 3 or 4 days before we do the job, and I sort of think, well, why should I have to pay up front to do the job when the job mightn't even be done or mightn't be done properly? Yeah.
I think you're right, but it does depend if there was a written contract or a terms and conditions that you agreed to that said it would be paid up front. I can see why they may be asking for that, but it's a very competitive market. I'd be recommending that you just ask for your money back and go and speak to another provider.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I certainly appreciate your time, and what a great program you've got there.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
All the best. Thank you. Bye.
All right, well, that went very, very quickly, and I notice we've got a text message there as well, which I can't read across the room, so we'll do that off air. We didn't get to the end of our program again, but that's okay. We do enjoy your phone calls. Thank you to James who called in today. We would like to hear from more of you next week. And Andrew, thank you very much again for your time this morning.
Thank you, Colin. I think we might shelve. We've got more AI stuff. If people bring it back by popular demand, we might, but we might move on to a different topic next week.
I'm excited by the questions we didn't get to, but we'll negotiate that out, Andrew. All right.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning. This was Legal Matters, and it is heard every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. And you can call in at that time, same time, next week.
You've been listening to Legal Matters, proudly brought to you by our trusted sponsor, Bell and Senior Lawyers. Call them today for all your legal needs on 07 55 32 8777. A copy of this and past programs and all relevant resources will be available for you to replay or download on bellsenior.com.au and 4crb.com.